For many of us, living and breathing football isn't too far from reality. It's a lifestyle around which many lives revolve. It is fun to interact with football on a personal and social level, right? But lately, or at least in recent memory, why is it that football has become less enjoyable and the fun parts of the game seem to be diminishing? Does this decline coincide with the introduction of VAR, or has the monopoly of a few clubs finally become too noticeable? Maybe it's the newer generation of referees who have no clue how to let the game flow. Or is it just Pep Guardiola and his revolution of tactics to the point of possession getting more flowers than the actual goal threat itself? Maybe it's us fans who have become spoiled in the era of some of the greatest players and now feel underwhelmed by a robotic style of play. In order to understand why it doesn't seem fun now, we need to look back on the times when it supposedly was fun and try to pinpoint what's different today. Let's get into some of the peak football moments from the past and unravel the reasons behind their enjoyment. One of the best players in the history of the game claimed divine intervention, took over a mere mortal sport, and it was God's hand that scored that day. Diego Maradona scored one of the most memorable and controversial goals for Argentina in a World Cup quarterfinal, which gave rise to a huge debate afterward. The major points of discussion were the incompetence of referees and where we draw the line between cheating and cleverness. The fact that it is still being talked about today etches this moment into a footballing milestone. But don't these points sound familiar? Haven't we constantly criticized the standards of officials and their consistent inconsistencies? Hasn't Neymar regularly been questioned about whether his diving is clever or illegal? Doesn't seem like the issues have really changed so much over time. We certainly have modern measures in place to limit such instances now. The hand of God is practically impossible with VAR in place. That's good, right? Well, not necessarily. In 2017, before the introduction of VAR in English football, the Football Supporters Association conducted a survey which saw around 75% of the people in favour of VAR's introduction. Quick checks with game-changing decisions to uphold the rules. Sounds fair. But what followed in reality was an absolute disaster in terms of what everyone expected. Long waits, inconsistent decisions, and gross incompetence at the highest level completely destroyed the confidence that fans had. A similar survey in 2023 by FSA saw about 80% of the match-going supporters deem the VAR experience to be very poor. It is important to understand how the policy itself did not fail, but its execution definitely did. The fact that referees are still getting major decisions wrong and that there is no transparency regarding inconsistent outcomes has had a twofold effect on the fun for supporters. First, unfairness hasn't been eradicated, so there is no trust in this modern technology. Inconsistent decisions are still down to the subjective views of individual referees, so fans are always in the dark until a decision is thrust upon them. Secondly, the stoppages and hesitation to celebrate most of the goals have killed one of the best parts about football. With VAR, well, you might as well follow the match throughout notifications on your phone. The essence of celebrating goals without a second thought has slowly been lost in recent times. You could probably come up with countless incidents, like Liverpool against Tottenham in the 2023-04 season, when the VAR check deemed Luis Diaz to be offside. But later, an audio recording amongst officials revealed a human error had led to the goal being disallowed when it was clearly onside.
Yeah, it's onside. The image we gave you is onside.
Left back.
I can't do anything. I can't do anything.
Liverpool went on to lose that match 2-1. An apology from the PGMOL after the decision has already affected the outcome of the match justifiably falls flat on the fans. The introduction of an automated system to check offsides in the Premier League next season onwards is a step in the right direction. Let's now look at the increasing focus on the tactical aspects of the game and how it has contributed to a big loss in terms of individual freedom that players are allowed these days. Pep Guardiola is one of the greatest, if not the greatest manager in the history of football. When we talk about the technical and tactical part of the game, he is second to none. Now that it's out of the way, let's talk about the impact his possession-based football has had on the streets. The casual enjoyers of the game who don't care all that much about statistics would definitely prefer football from a decade ago rather than the Tiki-Taka centric style that most teams try to emulate today. There are probably 100 iterations of his Manchester City 3-2-4-1 setup in professional football today. Chelsea's newest appointment, Enzo Maresca, is completely influenced by it, as is Bayern Munich's Vincent Kompany. But as a neutral, it becomes unbearable to watch Manchester City play regularly.
When it came to the country, everyone believed that we have to play this kind of football, like passes and everything. And we were kind of losing our values, you know.
The slow possession-based build-up requires patience, and the occasional tiki-taka goals are decent to witness, but so easy to anticipate. That's where the fun has vanished a little. The lack of anticipation, because Pep comes so close to perfection, is that there isn't much chance to anticipate anything other than success. It's unlikely we'll see another Premier League winner until he decides to step away. But from a very casual, everyday fan point of view, Pep has ruined the uncertainty as well as the directness of football. Give me Real Madrid counterattacks under Mourinho all day instead of this. All in all, the tactical overhaul of every single phase of the game has led to a huge decline in individual freedom on the pitch. This is also why managers like Carlo Ancelotti are highly revered in many communities of football watchers. He sets up his teams with tactical overviews while allowing them the freedom to use their individual quality to influence situations. Back in 2011, even people who wouldn't watch football would be passionately discussing the El Clasico every day after the match. The fights, the goals, the legacy would be never-ending points of discussion. This wasn't only due to Messi or Ronaldo either. It was a historic rivalry that would end with blood, sweat and tears. It was unfathomable to watch rival players showing any signs of respect towards one another. The sport was pure entertainment with drama on and off the pitch. The North London derby was no less either, with claims to bragging rights over North London painting it red or white. But these days, it's fair to say that these hardcore rivalries seem to be getting softer and only relevant to the true fan base. But the players who represent these loyal fans seem to be losing touch. Exchanging shirts after matches and forgetting the stakes, the fans are often left deflated watching it unfold. But rivalries aside, the transfer market has gradually grown extremely volatile, and not in a good way either. We all know that Neymar's record-breaking transfer kind of broke the market. Man City and Chelsea have been relentless spenders as well. The market values have shot up exponentially, and relatively smaller clubs almost seem cut off from being able to compete with the big boys. This puts the frequency of underdog stories at risk. Bayer Leverkusen winning the Bundesliga as invincibles is a stark reminder of how good an underdog campaign can feel. The ability of David to defeat Goliath is one of the greatest qualities of football. We should strive to keep it that way. Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein have also had a hand in making the transfer news feel somewhat dull. A huge transfer getting followed from the club's interest till the player's medicals are confirmed takes the sensational hit out of it. A decade ago, Arsenal was chasing Mesut Ozil the whole summer of 2013 when he had fallen out with the Real Madrid hierarchy. The only medium of transfer updates was through news broadcasters reporting live from outside the Emirates. As Arsenal fans had almost lost hope with the transfer window closing in a few hours, Gerard Hughes reported on Sky News that shockingly Ozil had successfully signed for Arsenal. The fans broke into emotional celebrations outside the stadium, cheering louder than the cheer many goals get these days. Compare that to the transfer of Erling Haaland in 2022, whose move to Manchester City was all but confirmed by journalists even before the transfer window had opened. The anticipation and shock of transfers in football has completely died out. So is there something to look forward to? The tactical quality is at its peak, world-class managers are trying to outsmart each other in every phase of the game. The sport might have gotten less entertaining, but the game itself has evolved into a much more well-thought-out version of itself. Messi recently spoke in an interview about how everyone shouldn't be playing like Guardiola, especially young players who need to keep their spontaneity. He took his example as someone who at the age of 7 used his instinct to develop technically into what he is today. Such overruling restrictions should not be thrust upon young players, it adversely affects their development. What do you think about the tactical overhaul of football? What are the chances of getting to watch another Ronaldinho or Neymar in the next few decades? Let us know in the comments below.